So we had in the fifth unit, we had started with the wireless LAN security. Then we started discussing the various phases of operation. I hope you remember. And we could discuss only the first phase. So that was the discovery phase and the authentication phase. Okay, so the remaining phases of operation, which we were supposed to cover on fifth, fourth afternoon. So I have recorded that lecture and put it in the GCR. Okay, so that is the topics that remaining part of the operation of IEEE 802.11, along with the topic confidentiality and authentication. So that was supposed to be covered on fourth. So that is already posted in your GCR. Okay, so now let me start with the next topic. Okay, so the next topic is all about cell phone security. Okay, cell phone security. So cell phone security is all about 2G security and 3G security. Okay, so let's get into the basics of it. Okay, so certain things which you are aware of. Okay, so one of the most widely deployed cellular network. So that is nothing but your global system for mobile communication, or your GSM. Okay, so when you say GSM, the goals of GSM is better quality for voice, higher speed for data, and other non-voice applications like your international roaming. Uh, uh, so these are the goals of your 2G or your GSM. Okay, then the successor of GSM is what is called your 3G. Okay, 3G is also called UMTS. Okay, Universal Mobile Telecommunication System. Okay, so the successor of 2G, your 3G. Okay, so when you say 3G, so it provides all these services. You have many more advanced, much more advanced services. Like you have your mobile internet, multimedia messaging, video conferencing. Okay, so these are the services which are being provided by your UMTS systems, advanced services provided by your UMTS systems or your 3G. Okay, so first let us look into what are the various entities involved which become a part of your GSM or your UMTS, that is 2G or 3G. Okay, so then we will look into the security aspects associated with 2G, the flaws associated with it. Then we go to the security aspects associated with your UMTS or 3G. Okay, so first to look into the what are the various entities involved in it. Okay, so there are a lot of entities involved for making the cellular communication possible. Okay, so all these things are revolved around this particular figure, what is being shown here. Okay, so the various entities are being shown here. Okay, so uh, the first one is your base station or your BTS. Okay, these both are the same. Okay, so the cell phone, the cell phones will be connected to the base transceiver station. Okay, it is also called the base station. Okay, so they'll all be connected by what is called a radio link. Okay, so you can see here multiple BTS or base stations. Okay, so they are connected and they're controlled by what is called a controller, base station controller. Okay, BSC is base station, base station controller. Okay, so base station controller. Okay, so the connection between your BTS, that is your base station, and its controller, that is your base station controller. It can either be some microwave link or some optical link or whatever. Okay, then you can further see all these multiple base stations. You can see all these BSCs, base station controllers. Okay, so they are all connected to what is called your MSC. MSC is nothing but your mobile switching center. MSC is nothing but your mobile switching center. Okay, mobile switching center. Okay, so this MSC will be forwarding an incoming call, okay, to the switching center where the call recipient will be located. Okay, then again, all your call, billing, accounting functions, so they are all being taken care by your MSC, that is your mobile switching center. Okay, so I mean, all these MSCs, you can see a lot of MSCs here, mobile switching centers. So they are all connected to each other through some sort of wired network. Especially it will be a PSTN. And that is your packet switched telephone network. Okay, so these are the basic components. Okay, you can see here, this is, I'm telling about, before we look into the security aspects of 2G and 3G, first we need to understand what are the various entities involved. Okay, so the cell phone connected to what is called a base station, so a number of base stations connected to your controller, so which in turn is connected to your mobile switching center, okay, responsible for handling your call, billing, accounting functions. Okay, so and this, all these MSCs are connected by what is called your packet switch telephone network. Okay, so when you say home network, okay, so when you say a home network, okay, this is what we have discussed right now. Okay, so these are the basic entities. Okay, so now when you say a home network, okay, so that's the one which the user will be having some sort of subscription. Okay, so this particular MSC, okay, MSC will be having a database. It will be having a database called your HLR. You can see here HLR, it's a database. HLR stands for home location register. Home location register. Home location register. So this particular database will have the information of each of its subscribers. Okay, so it will have this database will have both static information and some dynamic information. Okay, so static information means things which will not change. For example, the subscriber's mobile number. Okay, so what service that particular subscriber is subscribed to. And then there could be some secret key stored in that mobile, and that will be known only to your HLR. Okay, so these are the static information which becomes a part of your HLR database. Then it will also have some dynamic information. Okay, so dynamic information means what is the, let's say, what is the current location of the subscriber, or which cellular network the user may be currently visiting. Okay, so these are things which could change from time to time. Okay, because the subscriber may make use of some other foreign networks. Okay, so that may have some roaming services. Okay, with respect to the network what the subscriber is having. Okay, so all this information will be there. Then your MSC, it also has, there's one more database called, there's something called here VLR. Okay, VLR means Visitor Location Register. Visitor Location Register. Visitor Location Register. Okay. This register, so the cellular network, so they'll be maintaining this database. It will have the users currently visiting that particular network, along with the services what they have subscribed or what they are entitled to. Okay, so all these are maintained in your visitor location register. Okay, so that's another thing. Okay, so the MSC having what is called a home location register. Okay, home location register. And then again, we have one more database called the visitor location register. Okay, so these are the various components or entities which form or which enable your cellular communication possible. Okay, then yeah, I mentioned about MSC, HLR, then what HLR contains, then yeah, the subscription, yeah, the database called VLR. Okay, then coming to what is a SIM card. SIM card. SIM card, all of you know. What is the full form of SIM card? Subscriber Identity Module. Okay, so it was basically this GSM or the 2G technology which introduced this concept of what is called your SIM card. Okay, so this SIM card, as you know, it can be removed from one cell phone to another cell phone, and we can put it in another cell phone. Okay, so there are actually some I mean, the SIM card contains certain information. What happened? Okay. Right. So the SIM card contains certain information. Okay. So let's see what is can everybody mute? There's so much some disturbance. Somebody is traveling and unmuted. Malavika, can you please mute your line? Sartha, can you just call her and ask her to mute herself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. People don't even listen, they just connect and create the disturbance in the line. Yeah, I have removed her from the meeting. There's no other way. If she joins us, let's ask her to mute it. Okay. So now, where are we? Okay. Yeah, I told about VLR. Then I was just mentioning about SIM card. SIM card is nothing but, smart card. You can call it as a smart card, which can be used in different cell phones. And your subscriber identity module. Okay, so this has certain information. You can call it as 3 secrets associated with your SIM card, and it also performs some cryptographic operations. Okay, so the first one is the information associated with your SIM card. These are the 3 informations associated with your SIM card. The first one is a unique 15-digit subscriber identification number. That is called IMSI number. IMSI number stands for International Mobile Subscriber Identity. Okay, so that's a unique 15-digit subscriber information. So that's the first information. Then second, you have a 128-bit subscriber authentication key. Okay, so that is actually denoted by KI. Okay, so it's known only to the SIM and the and your HLR that is your home location register, home location register, or to your authentication center. Okay, HLR is also called AUC, that is authentication center. So this 128-bit subscriber authentication key, it's known only to the SIM, holder SIM. It is associated with its SIM and only to the HLR. Then the third one is a PIN. Okay, so this PIN, personal identification number, so that will be known to the phone's owner, and generally it's used to unlock the SIM. Okay, so this is actually intended to prevent the stolen phones being used. Okay, I mean, hardly this feature is being used, that's another thing. But then these are the things, 3 pieces of information associated with your SIM. Okay, so that completes the different identities, preliminary identities involved in your cellular communication. Okay, so we have your base station or your base transceiver stations. Then we have, all connected to your BSC, that is your base station controller. Then in turn connected to your MSCs, mobile switching centers, all connected across a packet switched telephone network or a PSTN. Okay, then the MSC has a database called HLR, a home location register, or it's also called an authentication center. It maintains static and dynamic informations. Static information like your subscriber's mobile number, dynamic information like your current location of the subscriber or which network the person is currently visiting. Okay, then Yeah, all this information is stored in a database called your VLR, visitor location database. Then introduce the idea of what is called a SIM card. Then what are the three informations associated with your SIM card. So with this understanding, let's start looking into the security goals associated with your 2G network. Okay. Okay, so what are the security goals associated with your GSM? This is associated with your GSM. Yeah, yeah. This is generally GSM and your UMTS. Okay, so be it your GSM, that is your 2G, or your 3G UMTS. Okay, the security aspects associated are authentication, integrity, and confidentiality. One is authentication, second is integrity, and third one is confidentiality. Okay, so first is user identity confidentiality. The first aspect being mentioned is user identity confidentiality. Okay, so one way for an eavesdropper to identify a caller is through the IMSI number. Okay, so that is being transmitted by the cell phone when a particular call is being made. Okay, so to protect the user's privacy, so your 2G requires your IMS number to be used rarely. That is, basically, it is only used during your initial authentication to the foreign network. Okay, so this IMSI number is something which is not frequently being used. So instead, you have something called TMSI. Okay, instead you have something called a TMSI. TMSI stands for temporary mobile subscriber identity. So this TMSI will be assigned to the user. Okay, so this has actually only a limited time validity. Okay, that too only within a particular network. Okay, so when a user changes the location and moves to a new network, okay, so then the user's particular mobile phone, so it will have to be re-authenticated with a new TMSI which is being assigned. Okay, so this is one way to protect. That is, instead of using your IMSI, you go for what is called your TMSI, a temporary mobile subscriber identity. Okay, so all these mappings between your TMSI and your IMSI, everything is being maintained in your so-called VLR database. Okay, so this when you're using your TMSI instead of your IMSI, it prevents tracking of your cell phone user. Okay, so this is one way protecting your user identity confidentiality. Then we have what is called a message confidentiality. Okay, protecting the confidentiality of the message so that the eavesdropper will not be able to make sense of the content of the message. Okay, so some signaling may be used to be kept private. Okay, the next is what is called your entity authentication. Entity authentication. Okay, so your MSC. What was your MSC? Your switching center. Something to which your BSCs were connected, controllers were connected, your MSCs. So need to be sure that the call is actually being billed to the person who is exactly making the call. Okay, so, and again, the caller needs to convince that he's talking to the genuine base station. Okay, so that's what your entity authentication is all about. Okay, then the fourth aspect is, this is the third aspect, and this is the fourth aspect, message origin authentication and message integrity. Okay, so for each signaling message between the cell phone and the base station, the recipient needs to verify that the message has been received without any error. Okay, so both the parties should be able to verify that each message was indeed created by the party at the other end and not by a third party or by a attacker. Okay, so that's fourth aspect to be taken care. Okay, so these are the 4 security goals of your 2G or 3G. Okay, one is authentication, second is integrity, and third one is confidentiality. Okay, so first we discussed about user identity confidentiality. Second is about message confidentiality. Third one is about entity authentication. And fourth one is all about message origin authentication and message integrity. Okay, so now moving on to your GSM security or 2G security. Okay, so 2G security. Actually, when you tell about 2G security, there are two principal tasks involved in providing security in GSM. The first one is what is called entity authentication and key agreement, and the second one is what is called your message protection. Okay, so this entity integrity and the encryption keys, okay, so that are being agreed upon, and they are used to protect the message between the cell phone and the base station. Okay, so let's look into all these things. Okay, so some equations and other things are involved in it. Okay, so just listen to it and go through it once again. Okay, so when you say the this entity authentication and key agreement, there are some steps involved in it. There are nearly 4 steps involved in it. The first step being, okay, so this is the main thing. The first step is authentication request from the cell phone. The second one is creation and transmission of authentication vectors. Then the third step is the response from the cell phone. This is the third step. The fourth step is computation. This is the fourth step. Computation, that is receipt of the encryption key. Okay, receipt of the encryption key. Okay, so these are the 4 steps involved in it. Then we'll discuss about the drawbacks of your 2G and then move on to what is called a 3G. Okay, so all these are whatever the 4 steps what I'm going to discuss right now. These 4 steps involved in this entity authentication and key agreement, it's being depicted in this particular diagram. Okay, so first we'll just look at the steps and then come to the diagram. Okay, so the diagram is straight away taken from the textbook. It may not be that very clear. Actually, this is the cell phone. This is the base transceiver station, your BTS. When we discuss the various entities, I told you what is a BTS. So this is your MSC or VLR of the visited network. Okay, so this is actually the MSC or your MSC HLR or your authentication center of the home network. This is of the visited network. This is of the home network. Okay, so these are the various steps involved. Okay, so first let's start with the first step. Okay, the first step is we're going to discuss the steps about entity authentication and key agreement. Okay, so this GSM standard, it does not specify how often the authentication takes place. Okay, so it may occur once in several days or at the start of each call. Okay, but then definitely or compulsorily this authentication is being necessarily performed when the subscriber moves on to a new network. Okay, when the subscriber moves on to a new network, entity authentication is a must. Okay, so the first step involved is authorization request from the cell phone. Authorization request from the cell phone. Okay, so that's what is here I have mentioned here. This is the IMSI or your TMSI. The first step. So the cell phone, it will send to the base station the encryption algorithms that it can support. Okay, so it will also send its IMSI number or your TMSI to the MSC. Okay, so if the cell phone is away from the home network, so the IMSI will be received by the MSC of the visited network. Okay, so the MSC will communicate the IMSI to the MSC or to your HLR of the cell phone's home network with a request to provide a challenge that will be used by the cell phone to authenticate itself. Okay, so that's the first step. Okay, so the cell phone sends to the base station whatever encryption algorithms it can support. So it will send its IMSI or TMSI to the MSC. Okay, so that's the first step. Okay, so moving on to the second step. Okay, the second step is creation and transmission of authentication vectors. Okay, so Okay, so the MSC for the home network, so that will receive the IMSC of the cell phone. This happened in step 1. Step 1, the IMSC was sent, so the MSC will receive that. Okay, so that is used to index into your HLR database, from where it obtains the key KI. Okay, so key KI. Okay, so I hope you remember that KI was actually the shared only between the SIM and the HLR of the home network. When I told about the 3 components of your SIM, 3 components of your SIM, so I told this one, this KI. This KI is what I'm talking about right now. Okay, so that is something which is being shared only with the SIM and the HLR. Okay. Okay, so that's what I'm telling about in this particular step. Okay, so that KI is shared only between the SIM and the HLR of the home network. Okay, then your MSC or a HLR, it will generate a 128-bit random number, RAND. Okay, so that will function as the challenge, challenge in the challenge response authentication protocol. Okay, so basically it will be computing 2 quantities. Those 2 quantities are the things which are being mentioned here. So it will be computing what is called an expected response. That is what is called XRES, expected response. So this A3, A8. So this is actually the encryption key. This is the expected response. Expected response, and KC is actually called the encryption key. Encryption key. Okay, so this A3, A8, so they are all actually hash functions. Hash functions. Okay, it makes use of COMP128 hash functions, your 2G network, whereas your 3G makes use of some other hash functions, which is a little more secure. Okay, so all these are A3, A8, they are all hash functions. So as of now, you just keep in mind it computes 2 quantities, that is expected response and your encryption key. Okay, so in the first step I told you, so it will be providing a challenge, which functions as a challenge. Okay, so I'm telling about this challenge in the step 2. Okay, okay. So step 1, yeah, step 2, functions as a challenge. This one in the first, provide a challenge. Okay, about which I mentioned in the step 1. So about that challenge, I'm telling this. So this is how it happens. The challenge is being provided. Okay, so by computing these 2 quantities. So yeah, your expected response and the encryption key. Okay, so this is what is called your challenge response authentication protocol. So KC is nothing but your encryption key. Okay, so your HLR actually creates 5 authentication triplets. So 5 authentication triplet, and each triplet will be of the form this. Okay, that is your random number. Random number. So that random number will always be a 128-bit random number, followed by your expected response XRES, followed by your encryption key. Okay, so all these 5 triplets that will be sent to the MSC of the home network by your HLR. Okay, so if the cell phone is visiting a foreign network, then the MSC forwards the triplets to the MSC of the visited network. Okay, so that's the second step. Okay, the terminologies may sound a little bit difficult, but then please go through, look into it. Okay, so then the MSC then will send the challenge, that is your RAND, from the first triplet to the base station, who forwards it to the SIM on the cell phone. Okay, so that will complete your second step. Second step gets completed. Authentication vector request. So as a result of which you get this. That is, I just mentioned, see the triplets are coming. RAND, XRES, and KC. as a response, these two. Okay. So then coming to the next step. Okay, the next step is response, cell phone response. Okay, so once your, I told that in the previous step, the first triplet will be sent to the base station who will forward it to the SIM on the cell phone. Okay, so once the SIM has been, has received the random, that is your RAND, that is your 128-bit random number. So it will proceed to compute what is called your signed response. That signed response is what is called your SRES. Okay, so we had expected response. So now it is the signed response. So why we call it a signed response? It can only be computed by an entity with the knowledge of your KI. So KI is nothing but the key what is being shared between your SIM and the HLR. Okay, so your, yeah. Okay, so the cell phone will send the signed response to the base station who forwards it to the MSC. Okay, then your MSC, what it will do is it will check if your signed response is equal to the expected response. Okay, if both are equal, that means it is a genuine subscriber. Okay, so if the MSC will conclude that the SIM knows the KI, so the person is definitely going to be a genuine subscriber. Otherwise, he can easily be detected. Okay, so that is the step number 3. Okay, this one. This is extension of this itself. These both are second. Then this is actually the third one. A signed response part. Okay, so yeah, that is a third part, the third step. Okay, so now coming to the fourth step. Fourth step is computation or receipt of the encryption key. Okay, so here the SIM will compute the encryption key using that equation what we had used. So that is this equation we had, no? KC is equal to, where was that equation? Yeah, this particular equation. Okay, so this we can call it as equation 1 and this we can call it as equation 2. So using this particular equation, the SIM will compute KC. So on the network side, the MSC will extract KC from its authentication triplet and communicate it to the base station. Okay, so therefore all the user messages between the cell phone and the base station, so that will be encrypted using your encryption key, that is KC. Okay, so this is the last step. Okay, so these are the 4 steps involved in entity authentication and key agreement. Okay, see here, if both are same, it is a genuine user, otherwise it's a bogus user. Okay, so these are the 4 steps involved in entity authentication and key agreement. Okay, so this is actually one of the 2 of the main, entity authentication, key agreement, and message protection. Message protection is all about encryption. That is the next one what we are going to discuss. Okay, this is the first task what we had discussed. The first task was entity authentication and key agreement. Okay, this is the first one. This is the second one. Okay, so this these are the 2 major tasks of your 2G security or principal task in providing security in GSM. Okay, first one is entity authentication and key agreement, and second one is message protection. That is encryption and other things. So regarding entity authentication and key agreement, we had 4 steps. Those 4 steps were described by this particular diagram. Okay, the first step was authentication request from the cell phone. Okay, sending the IMSI or TMSI number, and then requesting to provide a challenge that can be used by the cell phone to authenticate itself. Step 2 is, creation and transmission of authentication vectors, where the challenge is being taken care. You are computing the expected response and the encryption key using some key hash functions. Okay, so then in response, the cell phone, okay, computes what is called your signed response, and then it is being checked whether your MSC will check whether your expected response is equal to the signed response. If both are the same, that means the SIM knows the KI, the key that is being shared between your HLR and the SIM. So it can be trusted. Okay, so therefore it means it is representing a genuine subscriber. Okay, then last one is receipt of the encryption key. Okay, so it ensures that all the user messages between the cell phone and the base station is being encrypted using your encryption key. Okay, so that's the first task of your 2G network. Okay, then coming to the next one is what is called your encryption. Okay, encryption. Okay, this one I'm telling about this message protection by encrypting it. The first one is what we just discussed with the 4 steps. Okay, encryption. Okay, so encryption is actually being performed by some sort of stream cipher. Stream cipher. So, yeah. Encryption is being performed by stream cipher. So the key stream for the cipher is denoted as A5. A5. Okay, so actually this key stream is a function of 64-bit encryption key KC and a 22-bit key frame, a 22-bit frame number. Okay, so that is denoted by this, the key stream. Key stream. Okay, so the key stream is actually a function of your 64-bit encryption key KC. Okay, this is actually 64-bit, and then we have a 22-bit frame number. Okay, so that key generator for this cipher is being denoted by A5. Okay, so the frame buffer will be incremented for each frame that is being transmitted. Okay, then coming to the drawbacks. Okay, the drawbacks associated with your 2G. Okay, so then I told you all these A3, A5, A8, the hash functions I had mentioned here about it, the hash functions, where was it? Yeah, this A3, A8, and again here I mentioned about one A5. Okay, so these are all based on what is called COM128 keyed hash function. So, and actually, this particular algorithm was designed by a small group of people. They worked secretly, and it remained secretly for a while. Okay, so surprisingly, it was eventually leaked, or it was reverse engineered, and major vulnerabilities were exposed actually. Okay, so in case it was in some public domain for general scrutiny, maybe the shortcomings of it could have been overcome. Okay, so that is one aspect of your COMP 128. Okay, then again there were several attacks on your A3 and A8, and those attacks were called as side channel attacks. Okay, so that was another flaw associated with your GSM. Okay, attacks on A3 and A8. That is actually to deduce the value of your KI. There had been several attacks. Okay, so those attacks were called side channel attacks. Okay, then so that was one of the security flaw. Then another one is there were several versions of A5 were in use. Okay, so yeah, we had A5 version 0, A5 version 1. A5 version 0 did not have any encryption at all. Then later we had A5 version 1, A5 version 2. They were all very common. Okay, A5 version 1 had a better security than A5 version 2. Then we had this A5 version 3 also. Okay, so actually this A5 version 3 was not based on your COMP 128, and that's actually the strongest. Okay, so what was this A5? I'm telling A5 version 1, A5 version 2. So A5X was actually the key stream generator for the cipher. For encryption, it was using, see this one, A5. Okay, so actually the encryption of messages between your cell phone and the base station is performed by a stream cipher that I mentioned. Okay, so the key stream generated for this particular cipher is denoted by your A5. Okay, so that's actually a function of this KC and frame number. Okay, so now we are discussing about the problems associated with your 2G. Okay, so one is the side channel attack. Second is having several versions of this A5 in use. Okay, so especially the version 0 didn't have any encryption at all. Okay, version 1 and version 2 were more common, and version 1 was supposed to have a higher security than version 2. Okay, so then yeah, that was another thing. Then is there any other just a second. This was another thing. Okay, then there were other shortcomings which was not related to the cryptographic algorithm, but this is a shortcoming, I mean, which was a part of the GSM protocol. So that is, for example, the SIM, so it will authenticate itself to the network, but the authentication of the network to the SIM is not a part of the GSM protocol. Okay, so this could result in what is called your false base station attack. False base station attack. So that is also another issue associated with it. Okay, so the attacker posing as a base station, so attacker will send more powerful signals than the actual legitimate base station itself. Okay, so this is another flaw or problem associated with your GSM network. Okay, or 2G. Okay, so these are the problems and drawbacks associated with your 2G. Okay, so now, okay. So that's regarding your 2G. Okay, so we discussed some problems and drawbacks associated with your 2G. So that can be overcome. That has been overcome in your UMTS or your 3G. Okay, so your so this, when we are discussing this UMTS or 3G, it is in I mean, you are comparing it with your 2G. So trying to understand what are the security flaws which was there in 2G and which has been overcome in your 3G. Okay, so the first one is, yeah. So your 3G is a mobile cellular network based on GSM standard, providing mobile network, multimedia, mobile internet, multimedia messaging, video conferencing. So let's see what are the security enhancements in your 3G. Okay, so the first one is signaling messages in 3G are individually authenticated and integrity protected. Okay, so the false base station attack is not possible in UMTS. Okay, so I just mentioned about a false base station attack. Okay, because attacker posing to be a base station, sending powerful signals than the original base station, resulting in what is called a false base station attack. So that cannot happen in a 3G. Okay, so signaling in UMTS is individually authenticated and integrity protected. Okay, so that can be avoided. Okay, then UMTS supports mutual authentication. Mutual authentication. Okay, so the SIM card and the network agree on the encryption key and also a key for the integrity protection of the messages. Okay, so mutual authentication is possible. Then sequence numbers are being used and even nonce values in order to prevent the replay attacks in your 3G. Okay, then the date and the signaling messages, they are both being encrypted. Okay, and the integrity protection and encryption is based on KASUMI. It's a 128-bit block cipher. It's a Japanese terminology. It's a Japanese word for mist. Okay, it was originated there. So whereas your 3G, sorry, your 2G was using your COMP 128, whereas your 3G is using KASUMI, COSMI, 128-bit block cipher. Okay, so this is considered to be much better when compared to your 2G counterpart. Okay, so messages on all the wireless links are being encrypted. algorithms for encryption and integrity may be negotiated between the SIM and the network. Okay, so UMTS, that is 3G, also addresses network domain security, protecting signaling and other data at the provider domain. And then security architecture is more carefully designed to maximize the compatibility with your GSM. Okay, so all these aspects are being taken care in your 3G network. Okay, so now coming to the authentication and key agreement in your 3G. In 3G, it is almost similar to your 2G, but then there are some differences. Okay, so especially the step 1, the first step, your authentication request from the cell phone. Okay, so this step is identical to the GSM what we discussed in the previous step. Okay, so then we have this creation. The second step is actually creation and transmission of your authentication vector. Okay, so here we do have some differences. Okay, so all these expected response, CK, all these gets created. Okay, all these hash functions get created. You have all these keyed hash functions, just like there you had your A4, A8, and A5. So here we have your keyed hash functions, F2, F3, F4, and F5. Okay, so the keys computed, they're all anonymity keys. They're called anonymity keys. AK is actually the integrity check key, IK, and cipher encryption key is CK. Okay, so the keys and the expected response, they are derived using the keyed hash function. Okay, F2, F3, F4, and F5. Okay, so these are the how it is being. Then your HLR also computes a MAC, a message authentication code, using another keyed hash function. That is your F1. Okay, so MAC gets created. Okay, so then again, it is also got one more, authentication message field. So authentication message field containing the lifetime of the key. So that provides a additional security. Okay, so it also has what is called your these. Okay, so that is sequence number. Sequence number is also there. Okay, the third step is what is called the verification of the authentication token and the cell phone responses. Okay, so the SIM will compute the authentication key from the previous equation using the RAND it has received. Okay, so then it checks for the difference. Okay, so the result should be positive and in the acceptable range. Only then it can be agreed upon. Then as a step 4, the agreement on the encryption and integrity checksum algorithm happens. I think we're all running out of time. So these are the 4 steps. Maybe I'll just recollect this in the next class once again. And in the 4th step, we have the agreement on the encryption and integrity check algorithms. So those are the 4 steps involved. Okay, so then these are the advantages and disadvantages of your 3G network. Okay, so 3G has got faster data rates, supports multimedia applications. Okay, so it supports all these value-added services. But then the disadvantages, it requires 3G compatible handsets. It's expensive, power consumption is more, and 3G requires a closer base station, which is more expensive. Okay, so the next class, before moving on to the wireless LAN vulnerabilities, we'll just have a quick look on the authentication aspect of your 3G once again. Okay, so with that, let me stop for today. We have 2 more topics to be left, which I'll be taking up in the next class.